This engineer wanted to be president. He and his friends pulled a lot of steel pipes out into the open sea. They opened the caps of the pipes, and as the water poured in, the tubes sank to the bottom of the sea in a vertical position. After months of hard work, they used dozens of tubes to build a foundation, and built a platform on top. And that's how Jack became the founding president. The country was called the Republic of Rose Island. In order to realize the freedom of fresh water, Jack brought in a drilling rig, and drilled a well into the sea right on the island. Although the island is close to Italy, but it's in the open sea. It doesn't belong to any country. The Italian Marine Police came to see what was going on. When they found out that Jack was building a country on the sea, thought it was a joke. He said hello and left, but it turned out that this made Jack think that the Italian government had recognized his international status. After a lot of hard work, they finally realized the freedom of fresh water on the island. President Jack immediately decided to stay for the day. On his first night, he enjoyed the sea breeze and admired the beauty of the ocean. He was convinced that he would spend the rest of his life here. But soon the night sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds, and a light rain began to fall. At first, Jack hid under his umbrella, but then the whole country was surrounded by the storm. He was shivering in the surf. Even his only umbrella had left him. A big wave came over him. Jack was half dead. If it wasn't for a lost bearded man, he would have been the first country and head of state to be killed by a wave. Afterwards, Jack invited the bearded man to become a citizen of Rose Island. They built a house on the island. Soon after, they took on another man. They used to work in public relations. Now he wanted to get away from it all and enjoy life. So he suggested to Jack that they turn the country into a tourist attraction. It would raise the profile of Rose Island and generate a lot of revenue. With a team of publicists running the place, with a public relations team, restaurants and bars were built and attracted a lot of Italians. President Jack also announced that the official language of Rose Island is Esperanto. Their story was soon in the headlines. More tourists from Europe came to visit. It became the hottest spot on the internet at the time. It wasn't long before they welcomed another citizen. A woman was pregnant, but she didn't know who the father was. In order to avoid being looked down upon, he joined the Rose Island as a bartender. A month later, Jack not only recouped all the costs of building the country, he made a fortune. When his ex-girlfriend found out he was president, she came over to see what it was all about. Jack proudly showed him his country, but his ex-girlfriend laughed at him, said it's just a place to dance and have fun. It's not even a country. Jack looks out over the crowd of revelers and ponders. He set up a government and a parliament, and held a national conference. He appointed himself president of the Republic of Rose Island. His friend became prime minister, the bartender as minister of finance, the bearded man is minister of defense, the PR man is the minister of foreign affairs. To get the world's attention, Jack went to the United Nations headquarters to present his credentials. He wanted all countries to recognize the existence of the Republic of Rose Island. Italy was very nervous when they heard the news, although the Italian army is a strong fighting force, but they were surprised that a new country had appeared on their doorstep. So they sent agents to investigate. The leaders were slow to respond. It wasn't that Jack and the others had a sense of counterintelligence. It's that once the agents were on the island, they were having fun. They were overwhelmed by the joy of the place. A week later, the drunken agents contacted their leader. They cried about how their bodies had been taken by the women, and were running out of money for the program. Can we get some more? The leader was speechless. Are you going on an investigation or a vacation? Because of this incident, the Italian government is even more nervous. They suspect that the Rose Island has advanced brainwashing techniques. Even their best agents were lost. So they made a statement on TV. They don't recognize Jack's country. Unexpectedly, this behavior. It was a free advertisement for Rose Island. Jack was inundated with applications for citizenship, and many of them were Italian. Seeing that the protests were ineffective, the Italians sent someone to negotiate with Jack. They said all he had to do was leave the island, and admit it was a bar. They'd make sure Jack's family was well fed and clothed. But Jack refused without a second thought. In the evening, he called a meeting. He announced that he was accepting all applications for naturalization. Passports and stamps were produced, but a few people weren't strong enough. The Italian government soon put Jack's father out of a job, and several ministers were swayed by huge bribes. The Rose Island nation, less than 6 months old, it was about to fall apart. Jack wasn't going to be left to his own devices, so he approached his ex-girlfriend, who majored in international law, to ask her to help him negotiate with the Italian government. But she thought he was crazy. He had no choice but to go to the Council of Europe alone, to get the rest of Europe to recognize the Rose Island nation. And not only did the Commission accept the case, it was decided that Jack's establishment of a state on the high seas, and did not violate Italy's sovereignty. It was in full compliance with international law. The Commission decided to hold a press conference in a few days to officially recognize the existence of the Republic of Rose Island. Jack was overjoyed, but then came a call from the Italian Minister of the Interior, threatening him with an immediate compromise, or he'd use a warship bigger than the island, and blow the Rose Island nation to pieces. The Italian government declared war on it. President Jack woke up. The huge warships were already in front of him. With a single volley of gunfire, Rose Island will disappear from the face of the earth. It's not far from the coast. Many journalists were on the shore to broadcast live. The ministers of Rose Island, who were originally bribed by Italy, they couldn't bear to see the destruction of the country they'd worked so hard to build. so they joined the rest of the people who love Rose Island, went in their speedboats to reinforce them. They surrounded the warship in several directions. They rushed to the center between the warship and Rose Island. The captain didn't dare to open fire. The ministers are back on the island. With Jack, they vowed to live and die with the Republic of Rose Island. They stood hand in hand, facing the warship, but the Italian government hesitated to give the order to fire, because some of these men, some of them still have Italian citizenship. To open fire would be to shoot one of their own. In order not to cause bloodshed, the warships immediately fired warning shots. They tried to deter them by force. They were taken by surprise, but in the face of death, no one chose to run away. They stood hand in hand again. The captain felt provoked, so he ordered the shells to fall a little further. It blew their boat over. The shockwave knocked several men over, but no matter how much the ship warned them, they wouldn't leave. In the face of such a tough guy, the captain of the ship was well prepared. He sent soldiers to land on Rose Island, to take them away from the island by force. The unarmed men had no choice. They could only watch as their country was strapped with explosives. With a loud boom, this popular utopian island disappeared from the face of the earth. From its founding in 1968 to its death in 1969, in less than 2 years, although the Italian government claimed that it was both a diplomatic and military victory, but it was still laughed at by the people of all countries, because the performance of the Italian army in other wars, it can only be described as garbage, so much so that this ridiculous war was the only war of aggression in Italian history.